Ryan Selkis, co-founder and CEO at Messari. We're here today to talk about on-chain analytics, metrics, data, and of course, DAOs with a true OG in the space. Ryan, welcome to Real Vision.
Thanks for having me, Ash. Good to see you.
Ryan, you've been in this space for a very long time. Give us a little bit of context about how you came to found and run Messari.
Sure. Well, I've been either investing in or building startups from the second I got out of college. I started in venture capital, ended up figuring out pretty quickly that I wanted to be on the other side of those conversations and phone calls. Started my first company at 25. Long story short, ended up winding it down based on 2 years of bureaucratic delays from the IRS. And just a couple of weeks ago, actually, someone with basically the same exact business model raised a $5 million Series A or seed, and I think is in the process of raising a Series A. So 10 years after the fact, pretty good vindication of that business model. But if you're early, you're wrong. And that ended up being a good fortunate accident of history because I got into Bitcoin full time in 2013. Started as an independent analyst. I got to know everybody very quickly, for better and for worse, because I broke the Mt. Gox story. That was in February of 2014. And then ultimately joined Digital Currency Group back when it was still technically Second Market to help form DCG, recruit the core team, raise a round of funding and restructure the legacy Second Market business into what is now Digital Currency Group, the conglomerate of investment management services and different businesses.
Barry Silbert's shop.
Yep. After the first year and a half or so, I went back to the operating side when I led the acquisition and restructuring of Coindesk. We built out the Consensus franchise and got the business to profitability by mid-2017, at which point I transitioned out, took a couple of months off. And then as I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, it just so happened to coincide with the ICO boom, when it truly was a wild speculative frenzy, much more so, I'd argue, than even what we've seen so far this year and in the cycle. And at the end of the day, the missing piece of the information services side in crypto was the proverbial Bloomberg for the industry, the dashboard and the decision-making tools that people were going to use to make sense of a growing asset class that was spanning far beyond just Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so we started Messari in late 2017 with the mission of organizing and curating information for crypto at scale and to cover the universe of assets, not just the markets data that they're producing, but looking at on-chain data, KPIs of all different types for different specific sectors of assets. And then, of course, qualitative disclosures and news, events tracking, and the like, which all make up the core of Messari's market intelligence product today. So it's been a fun 8 years.
Yeah, you mentioned 2017 as you were, I guess, just exiting Coindesk. I was just joining. I think you were the first managing editor there. Is that right? I was not an editor. I was responsible for basically taking the business and restructuring it and getting it back on track after the bear market in 2015. So Pete Rizzo was our editor-in-chief back then. And I actually took a year and a half off basically from writing. As you know, I'm a pretty regular writer and enjoy doing that pretty frequently, but I faded to the background during that particular process, and Pete and the rest of the editorial team kind of drove the publishing side. Yeah, what's interesting to me is really the continuity, thinking about what you were doing at Coindesk, what you're doing now at Messari, trying to provide transparency, analysis, insight into this space.
Yeah, I think there is continuity. I would think about it in three different phases. I think what I was doing when I first got into the industry was not too dissimilar from what Pomp does now with his kind of newsletter and focus on Bitcoin and kind of day-to-day major developments in the industry. Obviously, the developments now are quite a bit larger and of more substance and a much bigger audience than it was back then. I think Coindesk was very much focused on news and events. And Messari is going to broadly continue to be focused on data, asset-specific research, and really covering a broad universe of assets. Whereas a company like Coindesk, some of the other news-driven sites are really going to be focused on kind of the 0 to 1 crowd, right? How do you inform retail investors, newcomers to the industry, what's going on, and what's important about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and kind of crypto in general. Whereas Messari, we're starting to get into more enterprise, sophisticated users that are trying to understand beyond just the kind of first couple of assets. What does this look like as an entire asset class and a new novel technology ecosystem?
Yeah, that begets the question. What do you think the current state of play is in the institutional space, the clients you're trying to serve, and the folks who you're very much reaching there?
I think you have to look at it in half-lives. Anyone that is first coming into crypto, and I'll kind of caveat this and explain why at the end, but anyone that's coming into crypto, the traditional path has been skepticism, buy a little Bitcoin, buy more Bitcoin, learn about Ethereum, buy Ether, and then each kind of successive event and each successive asset that you get into, it takes about half as long as that original 0 to 1. Because once you've made the leap and gotten excited about Bitcoin, much easier to make the leap and get excited about Ethereum and then DeFi and so on and so forth. I caveat that only a little bit today because I do think that you are seeing people coming into crypto for the first time now that are coming in at the application side, whether that's NFTs, whether that's specific DeFi assets or kind of other speculative investments. It's not necessarily coming through Bitcoin. When it comes to institutional adoption, I still think that's the path. We're very much focused on what I call crypto enterprises and then institutions that have already gone through their first 2 half-lives, because you don't necessarily need decision support tools and a market intelligence platform if you're just buying Bitcoin or just dabbling with Ethereum. It really becomes more essential to kind of track the assets more broadly once you're starting to get into 5, 10, 50, 100 assets that you're trying to support and look at seriously for either a business use case or investment purposes as a regulated entity.
And what's the data, Ryan, that those folks who are buying at scale, holding large diversified portfolios, what's the data that they need?
I think it's a few different types. Markets data is the obvious one, and different end customers are going to have different needs in terms of granularity, reliability, et cetera. I think most of them just need a good reference point for kind of day-to-day monitoring. They don't necessarily need pinpoint accuracy unless they're actually executing trades and need level 2 order book data and understanding of depth and slippage and basically what it would cost to move real money and real volume through some of these exchanges and through this asset class. We tend to focus on the basics when it comes to markets data and on-chain analytics, and get very deep when it comes to tracking the governance, the crypto corporate actions, if you will, of these networks. What is going on with a software upgrade? Have there been network outages? Has there been like a material change in the token economics of one of these systems? Things that you would expect to see in the traditional realm in like an 8K or a Form 4 through the SEC's disclosure system. Those are the kind of off-chain, non-quantitative, but high signal events that are currently missing from the market because there is no disclosure per se for many of these decentralized ecosystems. The work that we're doing is basically combining data and analytics tooling for quantitative feeds and mashing that up with a world-class research team that's actually helping curate some of what's going on and kind of give it to enterprises in bite sizes so that they're not actually navigating Twitter and Discord and Telegram and developer forums every single time there's a major material event that they need to know about. And I think that's something that we've now got several hundred customers using. And you can think about the value there mostly for long-term participants and integrators within crypto versus like the day traders. We're trying to get into workflows for institutional and enterprise customers versus just supporting kind of day-to-day trading activities.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more
only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.